I've been with Cushman for almost 34 years now, so this was the first merger that I've really experienced. We've had several different ownership structures over the years. We've had majority owners that have changed. Initially when I started, it was the Rockefeller Group. Then it became a Japanese firm, Mitsubishi Estates, and then Mitsubishi sold to the Italians, which was the Agnelli family, sometimes referred to as the Kennedy family of Italy because they're somewhat dysfunctional maybe in some regards, but a very big owner, owns a lot of businesses, very successful. They're most known in the US probably for their ownership of Fiat, which then bought Chrysler, and the fortunes of the auto industry were starting to turn around. So they were our owner for many years, and then they put us up for sale about a year ago, well, a year and a half ago. And there was a bidding process, and the 11th hour, from what I understand, I wasn't part of the committee selecting the winning bidders, but DTZ came in near the end of the process with a bid for the firm that was just too good to turn down. So despite the fact that our CEO at the time kept saying that we will not sell to a competitor, we did sell to a competitor. So it's been somewhat transformational. We went from 14,000 to about 43,000 employees. We've always had, Cushman always had a global footprint, but clearly we've extended our global footprint dramatically. We actually just had our first year symposium management meeting in Chicago a couple of weeks ago. And I was there with about 1,000 of my closest friends, and I would say that there were about 80% of the people I did not know. But I did get to know a lot of new people, a lot of new faces, and I'm very impressed to see the depth and breadth of the firm has just grown dramatically. So I'm not even sure of the count. I think we're in 260 offices, and how many scores of countries, I don't know. My particular business is the valuation side. We're somewhat autonomous from the brokerage side, only because by design we need to be. We get a lot of confidential information. We cannot share that information. We have Chinese walls that we have to work with. We can't share rent rolls, income and expense statements, things like that would breach any confidentiality. When the company, when DTZ came together with Cushman, they were attracted by the fact that they did not have a valuation presence in the Americas. They were very strong in Europe and Asia, actually big competitors of ours over there, but they were not in the Americas. And we had that, that piece of the footprint that they needed. So we went from, on our side, I guess it was about triple also. We had 650 global valuation professionals. We now have about 1,800. I think 500 alone are in China. We are by far the dominant firm for valuation services in the country of China today. So that's a pretty amazing statistic. So all in all, that's in a nutshell, I think. Oh, I was starting to mention the integration. So prior to acquiring us, DTZ had bought a company called Cassidy Turley, which had offices on pretty much the coast. I would say primarily San Francisco. I think they were in Phoenix, pretty good presence in Phoenix, and I think a very strong presence in Washington, D.C. Somewhat overlapped with us, but they were more of a niche business. They also had a very good retail business, which interested me, maybe stronger than we were in some of those markets on the retail side. So having acquired them, and then 6 months later us, you're merging 3 firms and putting together all of the infrastructure and the systems that have to run those firms, from HR to benefits to payroll, IT, legal. It's a monumental undertaking, well above my pay grade, but nonetheless, senior management reported to us in Chicago that for an integration that size, and the gentleman we brought in to run IT came from a Fortune 500 company, I forget where, and they had acquired a lot of companies under his tenure. He said just merging the IT systems in itself would typically be a 3-4 year process. we've done, in his report, 80% of that integration has been done in 1 year, which was, I guess, a pretty phenomenal undertaking. So we're somewhere between 80 and 90% integrated. They think by January 1, everything will be working seamlessly. We'll all be on the same email systems. I mean, you can imagine that we're on different email systems and things, but all that will come together. So I'm pretty excited about it. Many years ago, I started with Cushman in our Philadelphia office, and at the time I was just developing sort of an individual passion for working on large retail projects, primarily enclosed shopping malls. We, as a firm, were only maybe getting under 10 assignments a year in that space. We were primarily always known as an office and an industrial firm from a brokerage standpoint. Primarily brokerage. We were really an office player. That was our expertise. We made an investment in a company in London called Healy & Baker. I forget, maybe 50% of them, something like that. Healy & Baker was in the UK and Europe to retail what we were in the United States as office. So now we had more of a retail footprint, and we were bringing retailers from Europe to the United States more seamlessly. There were the requirements for more retail valuation services. And I got the idea back in the late 80s, early 90s, that I wanted to specialize in one product type, which not a lot of people in our profession were really doing. A lot of our appraisers would work on a multitude of assignments. It might be multifamily assignment, it might be a hotel, it might be an office building, 1 week after another. You're constantly, which is good exposure, good experience for somebody starting out in the business. I had the passion for the retail, and the fact that we were building our retail platform was enabling me to interact with some of our brokerage professionals and fuel that experience and desire to learn more about retail. I started promoting it early on at ICSC, which is the International Council of Shopping Center Convention in Las Vegas, which is their big annual convention. We were going booth to booth. I wouldn't say door to door. There are individual booths out there, bringing materials with us saying that we have expertise in complex retail property. It was a bit of a stretch at the time. We were maybe doing 10 assignments a year. At that time, but nonetheless, there weren't a lot of people saying that they knew a lot about the enclosed mall space. Little by little, we built that business to today. We are by far the dominant firm in market share. We may have, by some estimates, upwards of 75% market share when it comes to providing valuations of enclosed regional malls. What I find the most interesting part about retail is that it continues to evolve. It's always evolving. So regional malls were primarily the byproduct of the department stores having initially been built down in the downtowns in the older cities, following the rooftops out to the suburbs. And then once the department stores locate to the suburbs, the developers were soon to follow with the idea that we could build more stores around the department stores and create malls. And there was a big boom in building malls in the 50s and 60s. And like any trend, that's changed. The department store industry, as a model, has fallen on hard times. There are some survivors. There are many in the space. There are many that were in the space that are no longer in existence. I have a list of something like 100 department store names, many iconic brands in major cities around the country that were the place to go many years ago that are no longer there. Either they're out of business or they've merged. A company like Macy's bought several brands under one roof and became a national player. But they're all feeling growing pains, and they're all finding difficulty in finding just their right niche. So there will be some continued pain. That said, of the between 900 and 1,100 malls that exist today, we're probably over capacity by a third at the minimum, maybe a little bit more. Some of the weaker players will go out of existence. Others will evolve into other uses. We're seeing a lot of transformational redevelopment of existing department stores in older malls, but malls that are still viable. So that's been a big trend. We're not just seeing these projects scraped and replaced, but the market has bifurcated. There's no doubt about it. The Class A mall market has achieved record low cap rates. They're continuing to see record low cap rates. We're seeing a stabilization of that trend. Maybe an uptick of rates might be happening, but some of the transactions that we're aware of haven't really shown that evidence just yet. We just think as interest rates begin to rise over the next year, most likely that will change. It's an overused term. Food is the new fashion, but it really is. I mean, food is hot. It is the one area that is excelling. You know, right now, apparel is having a lot of troubles, particularly mid-market apparel, and even the lower-priced apparel. You know, some of the fast fashion guys that came in and grew too rapidly. You know, like H&M, for instance. You know, they're having some challenges, ongoing problems with people like Gap and J. Crew and Aeropostale. You know, they just got thrown a lifeline, you know, with an acquisition by two of their major landlords and some other players. But food is certainly very hot. We're actually coming out, I keep throwing Cushman commercials out there, but we're coming out with a report on food halls. Food hall is an emerging concept, probably started in Europe. It's come here. One of the better known examples of that venues would be Italy in New York, and Italy is expanding in other countries as well as other cities around the United States. But we're seeing food halls open up everywhere. It's not only just the celebrity chefs driving this, but they're opening different concepts, you know, constantly that are appealing to different niches and different markets, and they're catering, you know, whether the food be, you know, Southeast Asian, be Mexican, be you know, whatever, South American, all different concepts are just popping up, and they're fun places, and it's where people want to go, stay, enjoy, and be entertained.